always had vivid dreams, even as a child. I remember when I was 7 years old, I had a bad dream that a man was watching me through a window, and I could hear him trying to unlock the door. I ran back to my parents' closet, and I could hear him approaching, and I woke up. Just stuff like that. Everybody has nightmares sometimes, but mine seemed to be the next level. After I had a child, I was 23, things started getting worse. I guess it was just the anxiety and stress that manifested itself in my dreams. It progressed into sleepwalking, and I started acting out my dreams. I went on a weekend trip with my boyfriend. My parents kept my little girl, so it was me, him, and another couple. We stayed at this nice hotel, went and had a few drinks. I was kind of nervous about sharing a room with the other couple, because I know when I stay at an unfamiliar place, I'm likely to have some kind of terror sleepwalking situation. That night we all went to sleep. Sometime in the night, I found myself standing in this large room. It was like a suite or something. I looked around, and it was like I was watching an old movie. Sort of hazy, not scary. I walked around and didn't see anyone in the bed. I saw the door was cracked open, then it slowly started to open. I saw a large man standing in the door staring at me. He was nicely dressed. We just stared at each other for a minute or two. I was beyond terrified, but my aggression kicked in and I said, "Who are you? Get out of my room." He said, "What's your name?" I was even more terrified. I didn't respond. He started walking closer, and he shut the door behind him. At this point, I'm just as confused as I am scared. I guess my brain started waking up. Suddenly, the room was totally unfamiliar. This is not my room, I thought. The horror of realizing I was in the wrong room. It was the middle of the night and I was out of town. I had sleptwalked into another room at a hotel. It was just as horrifying as the fact that now I'm in danger. The man is walking towards me. He stops about a foot away from me and said, "What's your name?" Again, I say, I think I've made a mistake. This is the wrong room. He's standing behind me in the door. He's just staring at me with this aggressive look. He says, "Well, let me walk you to your room then," with the creepiest stare, and then suddenly smiled this maniacal half smile. No emotions in his eyes. I tell him no, I can walk by myself. I crash for the door and open it. He is walking towards me from behind. My heart is beating so fast, I can feel it in my ears throbbing. I swing the door open and run full speed out of it. He is picking up his pace and is following me down the hall. I see the elevator and start sprinting. As soon as the light dinged to open the doors, I run inside and hit the button to close the doors as quickly as possible. I see him around the corner right at the doors they're starting to close. He's angry, but he's not saying anything. I guess he didn't want to cause a scene and chance waking up the guests. I'm so panicked. I can't remember my room number at this point. I'm crying, trying desperately to remember. Suddenly I remember it. I knew the elevator at the hotel had one of those screens by the elevator door, so you could see what floor it was stopped on. He was going to know the floor I stopped on. I couldn't chance going to the wrong floor to throw him off, because I would waste time. I don't know why I didn't go to the lobby. I was too panicked to think rationally. The doors open to my floor. I sprint to the door of my room and bang on the door. My boyfriend opens it. He's so confused. I say, "Let me in, now." He's sleepy and drunk. The other couple didn't even wake up, but briefly to say, "Are you okay?" I'm embarrassed, horrified, crying all kinds of emotions. As soon as the room is quiet, I'm laying in bed trying to cry quietly. I hear the ding of the elevator. He's out there walking around trying to find me. Eventually I hear it ding again, as if he's heading back to another floor, or maybe back to his room. The next morning I wasn't sure whether I had just been dreaming. I wasn't sure whether it was one of those vivid dreams that happened, but felt more like a memory than a dream. I was replaying the hazy memory of being in the room over and over again in my head. I felt like I was going insane. I was quiet, my head spinning. My face was hot and I was terrified. If it was real, then I would be absolutely horrified for my own safety at night the rest of my life. If it was real, then my boyfriend didn't need to know. Who would want to be with a girl who did something to that level of extreme during the night, on a weekend trip with his friends? I felt embarrassed, but mostly panicked. I decided I wouldn't say a word about anything. Partly this was my way of figuring out if it had actually happened. If no one brought it up, it probably didn't happen. It was so bizarre and so beyond scary that my brain was literally trying to protect me. It was easier to say, that's crazy, so unlikely, and probably didn't happen. What are the chances of it being real? It was almost too scary and alarming that I sleepwalked to even accept as real. The morning was somewhat normal. We all slept late. Me and the other girl on the trip didn't even know each other well, but we bonded while doing our makeup before the day got started. While we were doing our makeup, she looked at me and said, "So what happened to you last night?" My heart stopped beating. I realized my worst fear. It was real. I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "When you came and beat on the door for us to let you in." I kind of laughed and tried to act nonchalant. Oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. But I guess I had gotten up to use the bathroom and went out the wrong door because I was so sleepy. So I just had to knock to be let back in. She laughed and said, "Oh my gosh, I've done that before. It's so awkward." My boyfriend didn't bring it up the whole trip, but on the way home he said, "Wait, I forgot to ask why you're needing to be let back in the middle of the night. What happened?" I fed him the same story. I never told my boyfriend what had happened. I felt psychotic. I called a therapist the next day. I still sleepwalk sometimes. It's crazy how your own mind can involuntarily make you do something like that. It's like you, but it's not you. It's like you're at full control of your subconscious brain at night. Most people's muscles freeze so they can't act out their dreams, but not me. I don't know who that man was. I don't know how I got in his room, if that even was his room. I don't know what would have happened. I knew he was going to do something to me. I've been terrified every time I go out of town since then. I never saw that man again, but it goes to show how dangerous your mind can be. Somehow my dream had innocently put me in a situation to encounter the wrong person at the wrong time. I still don't trust myself at night, but maybe my subconscious was traumatized enough from that it learned a lesson. This was about 4 to 5 months ago. I was skating at Castle Point Skate Park in Hoboken, New Jersey. I was having fun doing my own shit and skating the mini halfpipe. Then I saw this creepy-ass old man who just walked in. No skateboard or bike. Just a weird-ass guy who doesn't belong there whatsoever. As I was skating, I noticed this man kept looking at me, just staring me down like, "Oh, I'm coming for your ass, you better watch out." I got so scared because he kept getting closer and closer to me, just slowly creeping towards me. At this point, I shit my pants and signaled my dad, who was in the car across the skate park, to come over As soon as my dad comes, the guy just gives me one last look and leaves in a rush. I told my dad what happened. An even bigger coincidence is that on the trash can at the skate park was a huge missing persons sign. It looked like a kid who looked just like me, and there was also so many helicopters in the sky searching for something or someone. I don't know, but I swear I almost died there. And there's a 99.9% chance those helicopters were looking for that old man that was in the skate park. So I went to several haunted houses with a realtor today. The last one should have been skipped. It is a 1960s house with swingers vibe. Large garage and a tunnel from the house to the garage. I went to open the side garage door. It was unlatched, so I touched the hand to push it open. Instead, it slammed back into my hand, and I mean slammed it. We joked and entered the main house, and it was the creepiest vibe. He never left the second room, and I got as far as the hallway before we both decided to leave. About 20 minutes out, while driving, I started feeling heavy in my chest and a slow choking feeling in my throat. Not a full-on choke, but from the sides to make someone pass out. I told it to go away and leave me alone. About 10 minutes later, I suddenly say out loud, "That was done to you," and I promised to look up the area in the news. Turns out in the 1930s, a church and graveyard were moved from that spot to make room for housing developments, and not all the bodies were moved. I think whatever was hurting me actually had that done to them in that house. I'm not making this up. Creepy, but I'm not freaked out. It's just a fact. Weird. Listening to stories at work made me remember this one occasion back in 2008 or 2009 when I probably scared the shit out of a possible burglar. Sorry if this is in the wrong sub. I can't try and describe this from his point of view, so try to imagine what he encountered when meeting me. This story has some gross content, so don't read it if not comfortable. I lived in an area with lots of damages on livestock by wild animals, and tanning and hunting are normal hobbies. I have straight, very long hair, which hangs over my face if not tied up. That day my hair was loosened from my braid and covered most of my face. I then, 20 to 21-year-old female, lived alone in a big 2-story house next to a busy road. There was a farm hall next door that had lots of large equipment and machinery standing outside. I had often strange people walking around thinking I owned them, which I didn't. I was a poor student renting a cheap farmhouse. I had just started learning to tan leather and fur and got a raccoon dog under work. If it had been shot after killing farm animals, not for the fur, I got it to practice. It was too warm summer for this, and the skin had started to smell very bad quickly. I had several knives to try, starting from the biggest possible, of course. I was tiny, 5 foot tall and skinny. Working with carcasses took me a lot of strength. While trying to hurry, I saw a white van stop on a bus stop along the road. A lone man came out and walked right through my shrubs towards me and tried speaking broken English to tell me he has to get inside. I'm not in an English-speaking country. This is quite known trick scammers use to find valuables to steal later, so I was very scared. My door was unlocked and I didn't want him to go inside, but I had no way of stopping him if he tried. In my panicking mode, I just stared at him from under my long, greasy, and sweaty hair. He stuttered that his phone died and he needed to charge it. I took my oversized knife, and with it I pointed at an outlet right behind me on the outer wall, never said a word and kept cleaning off the skin. The guy let his phone charge a while, called someone very fast in a language I didn't recognize, and went to his van. Again, walking through my shrubs, I had had problems to keep alive. In a short moment, he came back with an empty bottle, saying he needed water for his broken down car. Again, without speaking, I pointed a tap on the outer wall, using the knife like a finger, staring all the time and continued skinning. He took some water and went to his car again. Third time he came back just to ask if he could wait inside for a friend to pick him up, as his car was done for. I didn't say a word, just shook my head while cleaning now finely loose skin. The man stood there a moment, then said he'll just wait in the car. I nodded for goodbye and kept working, noticing his stare on my knife before he walked away. After 10 or so minutes, the van sped away. I finally took a long breath and hoped that the guy was too focused on my knife to understand I was terrified. I, having heard in the news of a foreign burglar trying to get into people's houses and driving a white van. Now thinking it from his point of view, driving around in a foreign country, stopping to do some work, and meeting a silent tiny woman in dirty clothes and long hanging dirty hair, skinning an animal with an oversized knife, probably looking like the girl in The Grudge. In his shoes, I hadn't come back after the first attempt.